Hey guys, Richard Blaine here. Thanks for stopping by my Easy Cooking channel tonight. Obviously, I'm not in my kitchen. I'm standing outside my friend Vern's house. We were working in his yard today, chopping down some pine. And what was the other one, guy?
Mulberry.
Mulberry. We were chopping down some pine and mulberry. And it came to mind that the tool I was using was an Ontario Khukuri. This Ontario Khukuri. And it also came to mind that people for about the last year have been asking me to do a video on how to sharpen this tool, the Khukuri, okay? This is absolutely the most effective chopping tool in the field. As a matter of fact, when I go hiking, camping, even hunting, this is the tool I take for my side knife. I don't take regular knives because this is the most versatile. And there are many ways to sharpen it. And the way I'm going to show you guys how to sharpen it is actually the correct way in the field so that you don't boof up the blade itself. But you can sharpen it at home as well quite effectively with many different kinds of tools. This is a carborundum file, okay? This can sharpen lawnmower blades, this can sharpen knives, okay? You can sharpen this Khukuri with this carborundum file quite easily at home. You can use it in the field too. You just have to find a way to pack this in your pack because it's quite abrasive, okay? The other tool you can use is a 1200 grit ceramic rod to work the scratches out of the Khukuri once you've worked it with the carborundum file, okay? The other way to sharpen it at home is with a 600 grit DMT diamond steel. This will take the steel down very quickly so that you can go over to the ceramic when you're done. And if you even want a higher polish, this is a MAC 6000 black ceramic, which will put a razor edge at the tip of your primary cutting edge on the Khukuri. And these are all fantastic ways of sharpening a Khukuri at home that'll work and will be quite effective. But what I want to focus on here, since we were cutting down cedar and pine today, is I want to talk about how to sharpen this tool in the field so that you don't have to carry large rods like this in your backpack, although there's nothing wrong with doing it. If you're going to carry a tool like this as your primary cutting tool, then you need to carry primary sharpening gear. And if that entails carrying two rods like this, fine. But if you can go compact, even the more better. So what I want to talk about is more compact. An example, 325 grit diamond rod. Small, compact, once you fold it up, weighs about an ounce. Great way to go. Combination file, blue 325, red 600 grit DMT. Another excellent choice. Weighs about an ounce. Goes in the pack, doesn't take up much space. If your edge is really effed up, and you have to shape it, this is a 220 grit extra coarse DMT file. About an ounce, goes in the pack, doesn't take much space at all. This is a Buck sport steel. They haven't made these in about 25-30 years. This is great if you just need to tune up your steel because the edge is bent. This will straighten it out like any other steel. Also very compact. Put it in your pocket. Done deal. Spyderco double stuff ceramic, 600, 1200. If you want to put a polish onto the edge of your Khukuri, and I do, and I always do. And this is called an Edgecraft file. This has 3 grits and a magnetic base. This is an excellent all-around tool, okay? 3 different grits, magnetic base. This will allow you to sharpen up your Khukuri just like a razor. The funny thing is, this handful of tools that I just showed you, I take these all out because they're light and compact and I can make all kinds of edges on all kinds of knives I carry. So without further ado, let's talk about how to sharpen this Khukuri in the field. Okay guys, so here we go. You see I've mounted this Khukuri against my body in an awkward way. Many people haven't seen this, but this is actually a safe way of sharpening your Khukuri in the field. You don't want to do it while you're sitting down on a stump with your legs spread, working a stone or a file, and you don't want to work the tool this way because you're in the blood zone, femoral artery and groin, so you don't want to do that. This is actually the safest way to mount this tool and to see the angle of the blade, the bevel. This is a 220 grit DMT. This has been worked pretty hard today, and when I lay this down, I can come here or here, but when I lay this down, I can feel it right on the angle, right on the bevel, and I work my way up. Okay? I work my way up. Okay? This is a very coarse stone. I don't have to apply a lot of pressure. But what I am going to do is I am going to work this stone on this side of the blade until, like every other knife if you've seen me do on videos, I get a bevel on this side. So just watch. Okay, here we go. You can follow that bevel. Okay, follow that angle. Do not hold this tool strictly by this handle. Support the stones with 1 or 2 fingers so that you don't stress the pins and bend it out. Okay? That is how you properly use this file. Okay, so we're going to follow it. This is going to put some gouges into the blade, but it's really not removing as much metal as you think. Okay? And this might take me 10 or 15 minutes on this side, and I'm going to give you a little bit about what this looks like from the other angle. So hold on tight. Okay guys, so I'm still working the 220 grit on this Khukuri because the edge was pretty well blunted. We've been working most of the morning. And if I feel underneath, I can feel the wire edge, but it's not as pronounced as I want it, so I'm probably going to have to work about another 10 or 15 minutes just on this one side. And if that's necessary in the field, then you just sit down and you make yourself a cup of coffee or have a drink of water, and you work the knife 15, 20 minutes on each side if necessary to get it back to working, functioning, serviceable order. I'm going to give you another shot of the angle, but I'm going to continue working this side of the bevel until I'm satisfied with the wire on the other side, and we'll be back. Okay, so let me give you another angle. I still have the Khukuri mounted against my body, keeps it stable, and if you can see, I have my file right there. Right there is the angle of this Khukuri, even down to the curve. And you follow it all the way up to the end, okay? That's all it takes, okay? You can even hear, because I've been working on it for so long, it's not as gritty because I've worked out a lot of the kinks created from all the chopping this morning. But this is how you get it right. And over time, the bevel will open up to a more satisfactory width for longer cutting chores. Out of the factory, the bevel on this was a little bit thin, about 1/8 of an inch, okay? But this is how you work this. You follow that bevel, you let the flat of that diamond ride all the way to the top. All right? So I'm going to continue doing this because the wire on the other side is almost where I want it to be, and then we're going to start the process on the other side, and then we'll move on to higher grits, and then we'll do some shaving and some chopping. Okay guys, I'm done sharpening this side. If you can see, it's a nice even scratch, and if you run your fingers on the other side, there's a nice wire burr, which means I've met center. Okay, now I'm done sharpening it this way. Now what I'm going to basically do is turn it over this way and start the whole chore all over again. Okay? And lop off that burr and work the other way to create a burr going from this end to this end. So when I feel a wire here, I will have known that both sides of this Khukuri have met center, and then I'm going to move on to a finer grit to refine the edge. So here we go, forward, we're right on the angle, and we're just going to take about 10 or 15 minutes here, because it might take that long. This Ontario Khukuri is 1095 carbon. In my humble opinion, 1095 carbon or any form of carbon steel is the absolute best steel to have in the field. 1, for ease of sharpening, 2, for durability, and 3, for the absolute most basic emergency function is you can make fire with carbon steel, whereas with certain stainlesses, you cannot make fire. Okay? People worry about, oh, it's going to rust and so forth and so on. Well, let me remind you something about carbon steel. Every culture in this world that has ever used a knife or a sword has used carbon steel. In this country, we forged a country, we hunted, we killed, we fought wars with carbon steel that, yes, rusted. So that meant you just had to take care of it a little bit. So next time you're considering carrying a tool out into the field, consider getting a knife made out of at least 1095 carbon. Now I'm going to work this Khukuri blade on this side for about 15 to get that wire going, and we'll be back. Okay guys, so now I'm giving you an over-the-shoulder view of working the other bevel. And we've got it worked out. I'm beginning to feel the wire on this side. And when I get the wire to where I want it to be, I'm going to lop it off with a piece of wood. If you can see, right here, I'm laying it right on the bevel, right on the angle that Ontario ground this knife, and riding it all the way up, okay? Come to find out that there are 2 different angles on this tool, and that's because the person who did the final grind at the factory, because these are not ground by computer, is sitting there working at a standing belt grinder, so it's very hard to be perfect on both sides. So I'm doing my best to even it out. But I'm riding that bevel, another 10 to 15, and then I'm going to lop off the burr and move on to the next higher grit, and we're going to get this going. Okay guys, I got the grind, I got the burr to meet on both sides. Okay, so right now I have some tin foil on the edge. And the way I'm going to remove that is the same way I do with Japanese knives. This is a piece of 2x4, and I'm gently going to lay the weight of the kukri on the 2x4 and run it on the edge once or twice. Watch your hands, okay? Watch your hands, okay? If I had a bigger piece, I would lay it down on a bench, but that's okay. I've been doing this long enough. I'm not pushing down on the 2x4. I'm just basically using the weight of the kukri itself to help lop off that burr. And if you could get close enough, and I wish, you could see there's tin foil inside of that mark, inside of that notch. And I'll just move it over and do a little bit more, and no more burr. What I'm left with is a hard edge. I know people don't like seeing me do my thumbnail, and you might be able to hear it. And I'm going to move on to a 325 grit, and then a 600, and then maybe a 1200 polish, and we're going to do some chopping. So I'll see you in a bit. All right, guys. So here we are. I'm working the kukri again. This time I'm using a DMT blue. That is a 325 grit or mesh diamond file. You see, I'm meeting the angle, okay, and I'm working my way all the way. Okay. I like holding it up a little more like a violin, so I can see it. I can also feel it. This is going to refine those serious scratches from the 220 grit. Okay, I'll work a little bit of a wire on this side, and then I'll work it over on the other side back, and I'll lop it off with the 2x4 and move up to the next higher grit. This will probably take me about 10 minutes per side. And yes, you're looking at probably an hour in the field, maybe an hour and a half, but this is what you do, sitting around the campfire. Have a smoke, have a drink, and sharpen up your tools for the next day. That's what camping and hiking and being out in the field is all about. So give me about 10 or 15. Now, the burr is on this side now. So now I roll it over. I was here. Now I roll it over. And I take that 325 grit and lay it right in the groove, right there. There's the bevel. Okay, support the tool right here and run it down this side to cut the bevel from this side to make a burr show up here. And this is going to take me another 10 or 15 minutes. At 325, it's looking really nice and shiny on this side, and that's only at 325. When I'm done, this blade is going to be very, very functional, very, very serviceable, and I promise better than when it came out of the box from the factory. Okay guys, so I got the burr to show up on both sides at 325 grit, and you might be asking yourself, why am I going to 600 grit and going through this full cycle? I'm going through this full cycle to make an edge on this kukri that'll be easier to service in the field the next time, because as I stated, the original factory edge was just atrocious. And if you can see, I have a nice smooth polished edge on both sides, and that's just at 325. So right now I'm going to go to 600 to refine this edge even more, and then I'm going to go to 1200 to refine it even more. So in this way, in the future, when I'm working in the field or in the garden with this tool, I won't have to go through this full cycle of all these grits. I'll just have to tune the kukri up with maybe 1 or 2 grits. So here we are at 600. Take me about 10 minutes on this side, get the burr on the other side, flip it over, create the burr back over here, and we'll be ready to get moving forward. See you in a little bit. All right, guys, here I am, still working the edge at 600 grit. If you do this the way I'm doing it, you'll eventually see that as these stones, these diamond files, are cutting into the blade, you'll have to worry less about feeling the angle, because these diamond files are just going to lay right into the angle. And if you can see how nice and sweet and shiny this edge is at 600, just wait to see what happens when I get down to 1200. About another 5 minutes on this side, 10 on the other, and then we're going to 1200. See you in a little bit. Okay guys, we're back. I just finished using the 600 grit DMT, and what I have in my hand here is a Spyderco double stuff. This is 600 grit, don't need to use it. This is roughly 1200 grit synthetic ceramic that I'm going to polish the edge down from the 600 I was using to refine it. Now we're not going for a razor's edge, don't get me wrong. This thing came out of the factory at 40 degrees, 20 on each side, 40 inclusive, and that's the angle we're maintaining. I'm not trying to take this down to 15 degrees or 30 on each 30 inclusive, 15 on each side. I'm doing the best to maintain 20 degrees that it came out of the box with. So I'm going to take this 1200 grit. We're not going for a burr. This is a polish. And then after this, I might go to a little touch up on a 6000, and then we'll do some shaving and some chopping, some cutting. So hold on tight, be back in a few. Alright guys, so now I'm on the other side of this kukri at 1200. I don't know if you can see that nice lovely shine, but now I'm on the other side, finishing up with the 1200 on this side. You got to be careful when you're sharpening knives, you know. You got to take your time. Okay, you don't want to rush things. There's some things you just don't want to do because you don't want to get injured. You know, because if you do things the wrong way when you're sharpening a knife, or doing things the wrong way, like if you cut toward yourself with a knife, you could lose a finger or a thumb or something, like some people I know. Okay guys, so I'm done at 1200. It's got a nice, if you can hear that, that means it's sharp. Okay guys, so I'm done at the 1200 grit level. If you can hear that, okay, if you can hear that, that is a sharp edge. That is skin coming off my fingers. That's at 1200. And just for little shits and giggles, I'm going to do a few strokes with a 6000 grit max ceramic rod just to refine it just a little bit more, 5 or 10 on each side, and then we're going to go shave some wood. So stick around. That's what I call one dead piece of wood. Alright guys, so there you have it. An Ontario Khukuri 1095 carbon, sharpened by hand. It is still sharp. I know a lot of you guys don't like watching me do my fingernail, okay? But it is still sharp. Even after going through the pine, even after going through the cedar, I could probably still, okay? It's still sharp as it can get, okay? So, might want to try sharpening your own kukri the way I do mine. And if you don't have one and you're into going out into the field, get one of these for yourself. I want to thank you for stopping by. Take care. See you on the next video.